So we're still on the last two lines. This is a long process of dying. And if we are not prepared with knowledge, we shall no doubt know terror and regret. Okay, so we've been talking about the importance of forgiving, of apologizing, of preparing on a practical level for death, of training our mind when we're alive to repeatedly take refuge and generate bodhicitta and to bring emptiness to mind, so that when the time of death occurs, we'll have that habituated pattern in our mind ready to go and take off, which is very, very important. One of my friends is an old-time Dharma practitioner. Many years ago, when he was also an old-time Dharma practitioner way back then, was walking home in Dharamsala one day and slipped on a banana peel and fell down. And he said that what came to his mind was, oh shit, that was the first thing that came to his mind. And it scared him when he realized that his first reaction was that. You know, he said, you know, at the time of death, if death comes suddenly and I think like that, forget it, you know, because the thought that we have at the time of death is so important for conditioning what karma is going to ripen. And so it's so important while we're alive, you know, keep turning to, taking refuge, generating bodhicitta, remembering emptiness, you know. And so not letting our minds go. I mean, it's very natural for afflictions to arise. Of course they're going to come up. But not to let our mind continue on in the affliction. You know, like when we notice it, and sometimes it also takes us a while to notice it, you know, but if we could get, have more introspective awareness and notice it faster. But, so that's one point, is being able to notice the affliction faster. But second of all, really applying the antidote, you know, because sometimes we'll notice the affliction and we'll just go, yeah, I'm angry, and I'm really angry because they did this and this and this and this. And we just kind of indulge in our anger for a while. Yeah? So this is the kind of thing that we really want to learn to counteract. You know, instead of seeing indulging in our anger as being somehow nice. You know, I mean, do you have that happen? You know, when you're mad, it's like, it's kind of nice just indulge in your anger and imagine, oh, I'm so mad and I'm going to go say this, and I'm going to throw a wrench in the whole thing, and then they'll just, they'll just get it, and we'll think about, fantasize how to do this and so on. And at the end we may say, oh, that's stupid, it's just fantasy, and drop it. But already we've wasted a whole lot of time and put more imprints in our mind about, what we're going to say to them or what we're going to do to, get even. And so what we want to do is notice the affliction faster and then apply the antidote, as quick as we can. Yeah. So again, this isn't suppressing it and saying I shouldn't feel angry, but just, if we use the death meditation itself and ask ourselves, do I want to be thinking about this when I'm dying? Do I want to be visualizing how I'm going to throw a wrench in these people's project when I'm dying? Then we very easily see, no, this is not what I want to be thinking about. This is not worthwhile. And if it's not worthwhile, when we're dying, it's certainly not worthwhile to be thinking about when we're living either. So it helps us to drop it. And then when the actual time of death comes, to, of course we don't know when that's going to be. So again, to help whoever is helping us, by telling them what we want, and creating that kind of environment already. Yeah. And so it happens, you know, as if we are people who are dying gradually, which we don't know, then you lose interest in the outer world, you know. So the things that used to interest you don't interest you so much. You don't have so much energy to see people. Sometimes that makes other people happy because they're nervous and they don't really want to see you. Sometimes it makes them unhappy because they want to see you, you know. But I think we just have to do, you know, what we need to do, and if, you know, we need to turn our mind to more spiritual practice and just say, please excuse me, everybody, I'm doing one Skype call and saying goodbye to everybody all at once, or, you know, and whatever it is, and so I really need the time to do my practice and to go and do that, of course. Okay, and you know, many people have this scene of dying with everybody they love around them. I don't think that's going to make it an easy death. You know, that's just going to bring up attachment, because there's absolutely nothing our friends and relatives can do to help us, unless they're Dharma friends and relatives, you know, and then they can remind us of the three jewels, remind us of our practice, remind us of our spiritual mentor. Those people who know how to remind us of things that are positive, you know, if we have one or two of those people around while we're dying, that's great. But, oh, to have the people that you're attached to and are attached to you around when you're dying, this is going to make it really, really difficult. Yeah. So often you have to say goodbye to other people, you know, beforehand, so that you can really be peaceful and quiet while you're dying, and to be able to guide yourself. If you've trained in the meditations on death and trained in the you know, the 5 forces, which is an excellent practice from the 7-point mind training, to do that, and you've trained in that, then, you know, maybe one person who can remind you of it as you're meditating, or can read it so you can think about it, but certainly not a big party. Yeah. Or, yeah, you know, and not people holding your hand and, you know, caressing you and sobbing and saying, we love you so much, please don't die, and we're going to miss you. And, you know, you don't want any of that kind of emotional stuff when you're nearing death. Yeah. So, so that's the reason for taking care of a lot of these relationship things, moment by moment, day by day, while we're alive, and not waiting until the time of death, when things could get quite emotional. Okay. And then also making clear our wishes to other people about what to do with the body after we die. It's interesting how some people are very attached to their corpse and what's going to happen to their corpse. And I've, you know, in the 10 Kadampa jewels, there's, you know, they talk about just abandoning your corpse in a cave and letting it be, and who cares who comes and sees it and what happens to it. And to really have that idea, you know, because some people really are so, like, what's going to happen to my body? And will I look nice if it's a funeral and it's an open casket? I want to look good. Really, there's people who care tremendously about that, or the family cares, you know. And when we're dying, you know, we don't want to be whisked away afterwards to be embalmed, because it's going to take a while for the consciousness to leave the body. So we need to tell our family and tell the hospital staff or whoever, please don't touch me, you know, touch the body or move the body after the breath stops. I think this is one thing, at least for us, why it would be good to die here, because you don't need to call the doctor immediately, you know. You can just wait and, you know, give time for the consciousness to leave the body, yeah. But not to care about what happens to the body. I mean, as Tome Dazambo says, it's just a guest house. In the consciousness, the guest is leaving the guest house of the body. And it's like my story about the seat in the airplane. As soon as the plane landed, I didn't care who sat in that seat, because I was going on. So, you know, who cares what happens to our body after we die? You know, we are somewhere else. We are not looking back on this body involved in it. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. Yeah. We were talking about this last night with Mariana and John when I was in Spokane. And I was saying that, I mean, optimally, I would love to have a sky burial and at least be able to make offerings of this body so that somebody has a good lunch, you know? Because this body's of no use to me afterwards. Who cares? Yeah. And then, you know, people were talking about cremation and so forth, and I was telling them how we had done our wishes, you know, some years ago. And I said I wanted to be cremated. And then the ashes just scattered in the upper meadow, because I don't want any place where people can go where they identify me and like, oh, you know, it's like, I'm gone, forget it. But then somebody, one of my college roommate, told me that cremation is very, very bad for the environment. Yeah, and so she was investigating these natural burials where they just put the body in the ground and cover it up. Yeah, which to me makes a lot more sense. But then on the other hand, then there's a place where people can go and think about you, and I really don't want there, you know, to be some place. It's just, you know, forget it. Yeah, so being okay with whatever happens to your body, you know? I mean, maybe we're in something and the body blows apart, you know? Or it's crushed beyond recognition, or who knows? Whatever happens, it doesn't matter. It's no longer ours, you know? It's just material substance. Who cares? Yeah? So not clinging to this body, definitely. Yeah, trying to have a quiet atmosphere, you know, when we're dying. But then again, we're not sure if we're even going to be able to control where we're dying or who's around us. And so if it's not quiet, to be able to quiet our own mind, you know, and accept what's happening instead of getting raging angry like, I told them I wanted it quiet when I'm dying. Still, they don't listen to me. Yeah. Okay. So just being, you know, being cooperative with the conditions and, you know, dealing with what's there. But again, if we can, you know, let people know, please don't touch my body, and, you know, for a while, for as long as possible, optimally until there's, you know, you can see either the red substance coming from the nose or the white from the lower organ, which indicates the consciousness is left, but that doesn't always happen. You know, and then when it is necessary to touch the crown of the head and tell the person, you know, go to the Pure Land or take a precious human life. And we have the pills, you know, that you crush and you mix with a little bit of honey or a little bit of yogurt. Some pills from Zopa Rinpoche, and you put it on the crown, and it's very helpful to get the consciousness to leave in that way, because that will influence the next rebirth. Okay, and then you know, it's good for people, whatever we haven't given away before we die, for people to give it away after we die, you know, and dedicate the merit from that. But it's really much better if we can do it before we die. Yeah, but at least, you know, create merit after we die, giving the things away. And, you know, doing prayers and so forth, pujas is helpful. But the best way to help the people who've died is to encourage them to create virtue while they're still alive. You know, because we just ignore people while they're alive, and then after they die, we, you know, we send money to the monasteries and nunneries and say, do puja for these people. But, you know, they're not the people who have the karmic connection with that person. We're the person who does, so we should be doing prayers and pujas ourselves. But the best thing to do is help that person when they're still alive, yeah? So that they have some good karma, and then when they go, you know, there's that karma that can ripen. And then if you have a karmic connection with them, to make prayers that can be of benefit to them. Mm-hmm. Okay, but just to realize, you know, there's the time coming where, you know, this life is zero, this identity is zero, and we are on, you know, somewhere else. And to realize there's no concrete me that's going to die, and there's no concrete me that's going to get reborn either. You know, that there is just, you know, moment following moment following moment of something that is changing, you know, arising due to causes and conditions, you know, existing due to parts, and depending on name and concept. And that's all there is. Yeah? So not to worry about what's going to happen to me, because that me that we're so worried about has never been there. Mm-hmm. So, you know, to work with the process of cause and effect, and just keep creating the causes and getting the conditions to ripen, and it continues on. And so also, you know, while we're alive, dedicating you know, to have a precious human life in the future, and to continually meet qualified, perfectly qualified Mahayana and Vajrayana teachers, and to have the sense to recognize who they are and follow their instructions well and practice well. Because we could pray to meet them, and then we meet them, but then you see sometimes people meet extraordinary teachers and they can't see the teacher's qualities, and they just, you know, go off and do something else. So to really think of all the conditions and steps that are necessary to be able to continue practicing. You know? And as I said before, to really make strong prayers, never to be separated from bodhicitta or from the wisdom realizing emptiness, even if both of them are teeny tiny in our mind right now. You know, may they always prosper and grow. Yeah? So to have set very strong intentions and resolves for future lives. Yeah, all the way up to awakening.